Even some conservatives find themselves having a hard time justifying the fact that Donald Trump is accepting this palace in the sky. And as has so often been the case recently, we have to start with Laura Loomer because she's like more powerful than the vice president these days, I guess. She says, I love President Trump. Oh, good. It's an emotional as well as physical relationship. She says, I would take a bullet for him. But why? Why would you do that? But I have to call a spade a spade. We cannot accept a $400 million gift from jihadists in suits. The Qataris fund the same Iranian proxies in Hamas and Hezbollah who've murdered US service members, the same proxies that have worked with the Mexican cartels to get jihadists across our border. This is really going to be such a stain on the administration if this is true. And I say that as someone who would take a bullet for Trump. You already covered that in that tweet. You don't have to say twice. I'm so disappointed. I do want to correct one earlier part of what she said. She said, we cannot accept a $400 million gift. I just want to be clear, Laura, we're not doing anything. It's not going to be yours or mine or anyone else's. It's Trump's plane. Again, and I'm glad that you're speaking out against it. That's awesome, but there's no we. That's the problem. Him and his family get a $500 million plane out of this, and that won't affect them in any way. In any event, Mark Levin, he just added ditto, which there's not much in that message. It's one word, but it is, I believe, the entirety of his willingness to call out Trump on his BS. So good, there's one word in that now. Eric Erickson, who has been more willing to criticize Trump, says the Qatari government is not our friend, cooperates with Iran and its proxies, and funds terrorism and pro-terror propaganda around the world. Again, I'm not saying that they're not right. It is interesting that all of them, even the ones who are calling him out, the reason they think he needs to be called out is the people giving the gift are bad, not it's wildly corrupt to accept a $400 million bribe. None of them want to touch that. Because if you acknowledge perhaps that a $400 million bribe from the Qataris is bad and can influence you, maybe you have to acknowledge that a $300 million gift from Elon Musk could also be corrupt and maybe would influence you, let alone the hundreds of millions of dollars from other billionaires. So again, even the bold ones, the brave ones, don't want to touch campaign finance here. But I also want to credit Bernie Sanders because many of the Democrats are criticizing this as well. He said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but no, Donald Trump cannot accept a $400 million flying palace from the royal family of Qatar. Not only is this farcically corrupt, it is blatantly unconstitutional. Congress must not allow this over-the-top kleptocracy to proceed. Of course, Congress is incredibly unlikely to do literally anything about it. But that said, I'm glad Bernie's speaking out. What do you think, Jayar?
When's the action gonna come? Again, all I hear is talk. I'm hearing constantly talking about when they doing the pushback comes. You know what happens? Folks on the left with all the Trump derangement syndrome who called all this before about 9-10 years ago. All those folks just get to hear someone go, yeah, you know what? This is totally corrupt. He shouldn't do that. And then we move on to the next thing. When are we gonna do something about this? When's something gonna happen? I think that is the difference with Bernie Sanders, at least bringing up Congress must not allow this over the top kleptocracy to continue on. So if we're gonna talk about it, how about we be about it? Maybe do something about this guy that continues to make a mockery of the presidency. So we can be against it for a second and then move right on to the next thing. And I think, as you pointed out, I know why. Because if we start calling out and change things, we have to call out and change things from smaller levels. As Elon Musk tossed him $100 million for trying to sell his trashed cars on the front lawn of the White House. It's a constant selling and a bribery scheme with everything that he does. So if you have to do it once, you have to do it about 187 more times that he's done it in front of our faces. So just because he's transparent about how corrupt he is, does not mean it's not corruption. It's just right in front of our faces. And they already asked the Supreme Court for immunity behind all the things that he's willing to do and breaking all of our laws. So he's like, what are you guys gonna touch me for? I'm the president of the effing United States and I can do whatever the hell I want. Who cares what you say? That's where we stand right now. So until someone decides to do something, or at least enough people in a certain level of power decide to do something about it, all this is complaining. And that's all he sees it as.
Yeah, and one final thing, it is such a bad sign of how toxic their movement is that even like Laura Loomer, who's gonna criticize or whatever, she has to say twice in the message that she would die for him to make it temporarily okay to push back against the biggest bribe that's ever been given in world history. That's not a good or healthy political movement. But in any event, look, we'll see. I know the Democrats are going to be pushing for something. I think you could just block the entire thing. We don't have to take this goddamn plane. That seems easy. Alternatively, don't let him take it afterward. That's absurd. Why would anyone allow that? That said, I worry that, in the wake of the flood of news every day, let alone the flood of news about corruption every day, that I'm not even gonna remember this in a week. And in 3 years or whatever, if he's still alive, seems unlikely, but it could happen. He's not gonna give it to his foundation. He's gonna be flying it around to golf courses. And what's gonna happen then? You gonna lock him up? You think people like Merrick Garland is gonna investigate him after it turns out like, oh no, it wasn't actually given to the foundation. He's just using it every day? I kind of doubt it.